All right, good morning. Everybody have a good Thanksgiving? Anybody still groggy from all the turkey? Recovering? I'm still in recovery myself a little bit, but it was good. We're glad that you are here, and we're thinking our fourth week of We Live, and it's been a good few weeks. I'm going to pray one more time, and then we will jump into today. But let's pray. Father, thank you for this morning again, and Father, we praise you for who you are, for bringing us together. God, that no one is here just by accident, but you known and have known that we were going to be here. And Father, don't understand how that works, but we know that you are so big and so awesome, and we praise you for that. Father, would you just help us hear you this morning? I pray that you would get rid of me in this message, and these would be your words and the way you want it to be said. Father, that we'd be able to hear what it is you need us to hear, be reminded of these things that sometimes we forget. And I pray, Father, that you would convict us. I pray for those, God, who are here who may not know you, who may be just visiting or checking things out, and maybe some who haven't made a decision to follow you, that you would show them how much you love them now. So God, help us through this, lead us through this for your glory and for your honor. We just pray these things in your name. Amen. All right. I'm just going to start with a question. When you're out and about doing your thing, you're at a store, you see some friends, or you're just asking somebody a question, and you say, "Hey, how you doing?" What are some of the most common responses? Shout them out. What do you hear back? Fine, good. What? Any others? There's one. Busy. Okay. Hey, that's 10 extra credit points for you, because that's where we're going. Anyone ever hear that? You say, "How you doing?" "Man, good, but it's been really busy. Just really busy." And just the other day, I was with a couple friends, and we were at a store. We were getting some grub, and my buddy asked the lady how she was doing, and "How you doing?" And she's like, "Good, but it's just been swamped. We're nuts. It's been so busy." Anybody responded that way when someone asked you how you're doing? Ever said, "I am busy. It's been crazy." Happens all the time, doesn't it? We hear that all the time. And stopping and thinking about this, our topic for this morning is we live by finding rest. And I just want you to think about that for a minute, because it's kind of weird. I get that. We live by finding rest. And thinking about how we respond, and thinking about, saying how so busy we are, and really not thinking about it, we are. In a very real way, our busyness and our running from one thing to another has become a badge of honor in our culture. We've made it a badge of honor, or kind of a status symbol. And the truth is that we've turned it into being a good thing. Like being busy all the time and running ourselves ragged is a good thing. That's kind of what we've done with it. And honestly, if we think about it, sometimes we're proud about how busy we are. Look how we talk about it. "How are you?" "Man, really busy, man. Things are good. I'm really busy." And we've become proud about how hurried we are and about how busy we are. And it's become a badge of honor. And just doing some studies this week on busyness and hurriedness in our culture. And I found one that was interesting. I'm just going to share just a little bit, not a lot. But that in the U.S., we work longer and rest less than most countries. Most countries. We work longer, we're busier, and we rest less than most of the country. Our culture is busy, and our culture is distracted, and it's taking its toll, not only on the adults, but it's taking its toll on other people. Crossway did a survey, and they did this. This is just one thing I want to share with you, one thing they found out. Listen to this. They say this: secondhand stress is a big problem for kids. Researcher Ellen Galinsky interviewed more than 1,000 kids in grades 3 through 12 and asked them this question: if you were granted one wish to change the way that your mother's or father's work affects your life, what would that wish be? This is what they said. They said, instead of wishing for more face time with their parents, they wish that their parents would simply be less stressed out. Our stress and our busyness and our work schedules and our plans and all these schedules that we're a part of is taking a toll, not just on us. We're also not sleeping enough. More than 1/3 of all working adults get less than 6 hours of sleep per night. Those are without newborns. Okay? We get that you don't sleep. But these are working adults. Less than 6 hours of sleep a night, which means over 40 million people have sleep deprivation in our country. We're crazy busy. We're too busy, and that's not a good thing. What's happened is we become slaves to our schedules, right? We used to be masters over our schedules, but now our schedules do what? They master us. Is it not true? Think about your life. Our schedules become masters over us. And man, to change this is going to take some pretty radical things to happen, some pretty radical thinking to change the way we live. And some changes are going to have to take place, because the truth is, if you're here this morning and you belong to Christ, you're a follower, we should be the most less stressed out people ever. We should be the most rested, peace-filled, contented people in the world. But the truth is, we tend to look just like everybody else when it comes to busyness and hurriedness and stressed outness, which isn't a word, but I'm going to say it anyway. And we run from one thing to the next, over and over, thinking that that's going to satisfy us. We're just so busy, and those things never do. So I want to ask another question this morning. If you come here, okay, you've made your way in, and I know there's some stress when you've got, 5, 6 kids, you're getting into the children's thing, and it's crazy over there, and you got to get them all. I get that kind of thing, but let's push that aside. Have you come in here this morning hurried? Aside from the normal family getting your kids here and getting your families here, have you come this morning tired? Have you come this morning busy? Stressed out? Is that where your heart is? Is that how you're feeling this morning? Let me ask you this one. Have you already been here and looked at your watch already? Some of you saw us preaching and was like, yep, I'm already timing this dude. Okay. Have you already looked at your phone? How many of you already looked at your phone? Not for your Bible app, but you've already looked at your phone. We're distracted. We're busy. And there's good news for us, but here's the thing this morning. We have to listen to it. So that means put your phones in your pocket unless you're using it for your Bible. Okay? That means try not to look at your watch the best you can. I promise I'll get us out on time. Hopefully. Maybe I shouldn't promise. We'll be out on time. But we have to be intentional. We have to be deliberate in some of these things. And we don't like those words. Again, in our culture, we have to really be on purpose with this. So are you ready this morning? We have to slow down. We have to slow down. We have to rest. And I believe we really don't understand this in our culture. Most of us, if not all of us. We don't have a grasp on what it means to rest. I'm not talking about being lazy. Okay? Not where we're going this morning. I'm talking about finding rest. How serious is rest? Go way back to the beginning. Some of you guys know this. God created the world in 6 days. That's a pretty big deal, right? 6 days, created everything in the universe. On the 7th day, what did he do? He rested. God rested. 7th day he rested. You go to Exodus chapter 20 and we find the 10 Commandments there, all right? He gives the 10 Commandments to his people. Do you know what number rest is in the 10 Commandments? Anybody know that off the top of your head? Number 4. I heard it. It's number 4. The Sabbath. Let's read it. Exodus 28 through 10. Listen to what God says. 10 Commandments. This is one of them. Number 4. He says, remember the Sabbath by keeping it holy. 6 days you shall labor and do all your work, but the 7th day is a Sabbath to the Lord your God. On it you shall not do any work, neither you nor your son or daughter, nor your male or female servant, nor your animals, nor any foreigner residing in your towns. How important is rest? It's really important. It's really important. It's in the top 10, and it's in the top 5 of the top 10. God put it in there, a day of the Sabbath day, a day of rest. And it's a gift. That's a gift to you and I. It was a gift to those people. A day of rest. In Mark chapter 2, we're going to jump into the New Testament. Mark chapter 2, Jesus is traveling with his disciples, and they're walking through this field of grain, and they're just walking through. It's a Sabbath day, and remember what they start doing? They start picking off heads of wheat, and they start popping in their mouths, which maybe that tastes good, I don't know, but that's what they did. And they're popping this wheat in their mouths as they're walking through. Well, the Pharisees, these religious leaders, okay, who what they wanted to do is hold everyone else to task. They did. They saw what was going on, and it ticked them off. They called them out on it. And what these guys had done, what these Pharisees had done, they'd even turned the Sabbath into work. They'd even turned the Sabbath day, the day we're supposed to rest, the day that God had said, I want you to put aside for rest. They turned that into a burden for the people. And they got mad. You guys can't do that. Let's listen to what Jesus says to these guys. Mark chapter 2, verses 25 through 28. I love this. Here's Jesus' response. He answered, have you ever read what David did when he and his companions were hungry and in need? In the days of, I'm going to say this wrong probably, Abiathar, the high priest, he entered the house of God and ate the consecrated bread. That was a pretty big deal, okay? Which is lawful only for priests to eat. He also gave some to his companions. And then here's what Jesus says. Then he said to them, the Sabbath was made for what? Man, not man for the Sabbath. So the Son of Man is the Lord even of the Sabbath. I love that. Read that again. The Sabbath was made for man, not man for the Sabbath. The day of rest is a gift. Resting in Him is a gift. It's a gift. We need to rest. We need to rest. Matthew 11, we're going to jump over there. Verses 28 through 30, kind of our base text for this. I love this. Jesus is talking here again, and he's talking to people who needed to hear this. And I believe that we need to hear this as well. I know I do. Matthew 11, 28 through 30. Listen to what he says. Jesus is talking. He says, come to me, all you who are weary and burdened, and I will give you rest. Take my yoke upon you and learn from me, for I am gentle and humble in heart, and you will find rest for your souls. For my yoke is easy and my burden is light. So, where do we find rest? We just read it. Where do we find it? In Him, right? In Jesus. He says, come to me, all you who are weary and burdened, and I will give you rest. So I ask again this morning, as you've come into this place, are you weary? Are you tired? Are you worn out? Anyone ever been there? You've had to say that. I am beat. Anyone ever said that? I am tired. You walk in, I am exhausted. Is that where you're at this morning? Maybe a crazy few days with in-laws and families and outlaws as well. And it's been crazy. And man, I am whipped. I'm tired. Have you come this morning weary? Have you come here this morning burdened? Jesus says, come to me, all you weary and burdened and heavy burden. Have you come this morning carrying a heavy load? Maybe it's because you're weighed down by outside circumstances in your life. Maybe life is just really heavy right now. Have you come this morning with a burden? Have you come this morning feeling heavy? Like right now, life stinks and it's heavy and I don't like it. And I'm weighed down and I'm carrying this burden. Man, listen to what Jesus is saying there in Matthew 11. It is so incredible. What does he say? Simple. Come to me. Man, come to me if you're weary, if you're tired, if you're exhausted, if you're beat. Come to me if you're burdened, heavy burden, if you're weighed down. And I'll give you rest. I will give you rest. And when he was saying this, he was talking to a group of people who were beat. They were burdened. They were tired. These guys were not only burdened by Rome, under the Roman Empire, okay, that was a pretty big burden for them. They were hard workers. They were tired. They were burdened by Rome. They were burdened by their own people, by their own leaders. who are demanding and legalistic and following all the rules and the regulations. These people were tired, and they were worn out, and they were burdened. And Jesus was offering something completely different than the religious leaders were offering. What was he offering? Another rule? Another regulation to follow? Himself. How cool is that? He doesn't say, hey, I want you to do this, and this, and then you'll be restful. He says, come to me. And he can say that because who's Jesus? Church, who is he? He's God. The divine, the I am. He can say that. He says, come to me. He offers himself. It's such an incredible thing here. I want to read again just the last part of this, verse 29. He says, take my yoke upon you and learn from me. Listen to some of these words. For I am what? Gentle and what? Humble in heart, and you will find rest for your souls. For my yoke is easy and my burden is light. Incredible words here. He's gentle. He's humble. His yoke is easy. Now, when you say yoke, I'm not talking about a yolk, okay? I don't know if some of you picture this yellow thing inside of an egg. That's not what we're talking about. Okay, remember he's talking to a group of people. This yoke he's talking about was a big wood kind of harness that they would set over the top of their oxen, right? You remember this? And, well, not that you remember it. Some of you might have been alive. I'm just kidding. Just a joke. And they would put it on their backs and they would haul heavy loads. They would haul their wagons with these yokes. So Jesus is just talking to them with things they would recognize, things they would understand here. And it's a picture for them. And he's saying, look, my yoke is easy. Because they could look and see what those oxen had to pull and how they struggled. But he's saying, look, my yoke is easy. My burden is light. This was this great picture for them. It's different than the world. It's different than what they have to offer, what I can give you. Just come to me. Come to me. Here's the thing, we still work, right? Is work a bad thing? No, again, Jesus isn't talking about, we're not talking this morning about we live by finding rest, we live by being lazy. That's not what we're saying. We work, and work is a good thing. But busyness, hurriedness is where we get into some dangerous waters. We still work and we still carry burdens, even as followers. Life isn't cake and ice cream all the time. It's tough. And we still have burdens to carry, but here's the difference. Followers, we're not crushed, are we? We're not crushed by our burdens. They don't demolish us and leave us in a pile of jelly on the floor because we belong to Him. We're no longer alone in carrying burdens. We're no longer alone with this yoke that we carry. We're not by ourselves anymore. And Jesus is saying, look, my yoke is easy, my burden is light. He walks along with us. And here Jesus is inviting them, come to me. And He's inviting you. This morning, if you're tired, if you're worn out, if you're weary, if you're burdened, listen, if you don't know Him, you got to be tired. And He's saying, come follow me. And I will give you rest. As followers, we have a relationship with the one who invites us into real rest. Rest in Him. It's not just a nap on a Saturday afternoon. It's real rest for your soul, for your heart, for who you are. And this is vital for us. It's not an option. This is vital for our health, our spiritual health. But again, because of who we are in this world that we live in, this culture we live in, we have to be deliberate with this. We have to be intentional here. We have to choose to rest in Him. To go to Him like He invites us to do. And when we do, we find what real rest is. Has anyone been there? Man, there's nothing like it. You don't want to leave. You find what real rest is, what real peace is like, and we find the life that we're longing for. We're just looking at other things, busy trying to find it in other stuff. We find it in Jesus. So what do? Here's a few things we need to do. Hopefully these are practical for you. 3 things just to pick that we can do to find rest, to help us find rest. First one is this: unplug. Unplug. I think we have a hard time with unplugging in our culture. Right? We need to get away from the things that distract us, the noise, the things that keep us busy. We need to choose to unplug from the world. One practical thing we can do. Now, There was a few gasps at first service when I said this, okay? So if there's any gasps, teenagers, it's okay to gasp. But one thing we can do, practical thing, is we need to turn off our devices. That wasn't even from a teenager. We need to turn them off sometimes. We need to turn off the tablets and the electronics and our phones. We need to unplug for a while from them. And some of us here are going to hate this part. You're going to hate it because that thing is like embedded into your hand, right? And you're going to hate this, but we've got to unplug. Our devices have become a real problem. And I'm going to try not to get so boxy on this because I can. Okay, I'm really going to try. But it became a real problem. And we have to be intentional about putting them away, or it just doesn't happen. Listen to some of this. The average person checks their phone over 100 times a day. That's just an average. 40% check their cell phones while using the bathroom. Now, that's really gross, but I'm guilty. I've been called out. You've got your phone in the bathroom. That's disgusting. That's an impression of my wife, but not a very good one. Okay, 1 in 10 use their cell phones in the shower. Yeah, they must have some really good waterproof stuff. 60% check their phones before they fall asleep. Okay, we'll talk a little bit about that. 3 in 4 text at least once while driving. Here's another one I've been guilty of, and I get in trouble for sometimes. Maybe, I hope I'm not alone. Well, yeah, I hope I am alone, but it doesn't look like I am. 56% of parents check their phones while driving. Any guilty people in here? Just me? Okay, kids are calling their parents out on that one. Awesome. Okay, this one's crazy. This one blows my mind, okay? 87% of teens sleep with their phones. Guys, if you're sleeping with your phones, there's something wrong with that. Hey, you might have a problem if you're sleeping with your cell phones. 84% of people said they could not go a day without their phone. Adults included. So, do you think we might have a problem with being plugged in? I think we're connected. Okay? I think we have a problem. So let me ask this. Let's ask for some honesty, and I'm going to have you raise your hands if this is you. If you answer yes to this question, do you have enough guts to raise your hand? If you didn't wear deodorant, keep your arm down. We're good, and we'll keep moving. Okay? How many of us check our phones the last thing of the day? That's the last thing you do is check your phone. Anybody do that? Okay. Thank you for being honest. Okay? Okay. How about the first thing you do when you wake up? Do you check your phone? It's not just teenagers. Okay? How about this one? When you're waiting in line somewhere. So here's a situation. Happens all the time. All the time. You're at Walmart. There's 2 registers open out of 30. There's 100 people in line, and you're in the middle somewhere, and you're waiting in line. How many of you check your phone while you're waiting in line? Okay? How about this? You're in a conversation, you're out to dinner with your family or your spouse or your boyfriend, your girlfriend, whatever, and there's a lull in the conversation. How many times does your phone come out? I see them on tops of the tables all the time. Yeah. So, if you answered yes to any of these, we may need to unplug. Actually, we need to unplug. If you answered yes to any of those, there might be an issue with being plugged in a little too much. We need to take the Sabbath seriously. We need to take rest seriously. When we look at Jesus, I was thinking about this. Now he didn't have cell phones, but he had noise and he had distractions. And when we look at Jesus, he got away from the noise. He intentionally, deliberately got away from the crowds for a while. He had to do that to find rest, to unplug, to be with his Father. Let's look at some of these examples. Matthew chapter 14. We're going to look at verse 13. So Matthew 14, look at this. This is right after Jesus finds out that his cousin John has been killed. And he says this: when Jesus heard what had happened, he withdrew by a boat privately to a solitary place. Now, he didn't get left alone. Hearing of this, the crowds followed him from the towns. But when he had heard about John, he had to get away. He had to unplug. He had to get away from the crowds. He went to a solitary place. Look at verse 23, same chapter. After he dismissed them, he went up to a mountainside by himself to pray. When evening came, he was there, what? Alone. He had to get away. He had to unplug, be with his Father. Look at Matthew chapter 26. Really famous scene from our history. True thing here. Matthew 26:36. Jesus is in the garden and he's getting ready to what? Give his life for us on the cross. Verse 36, Jesus went with his disciples to a place called Gethsemane. He said to them, sit here while I go over there and pray. I'm going to go over here and pray. You guys sit here. Flip over a couple pages. Mark 1:35. Very early in the morning, while it was still dark, Jesus got up, left the house, and went off to a solitary place where he prayed. Are we getting a picture? Just a little bit of Jesus and his example here. Go to Luke chapter 5, verse 16. Get crazy fingers. If you got a phone, it's easy, but Luke 5, verse 16. But, this is great, this tells us, but Jesus often withdrew to lonely places and prayed. Luke 6:12. One of those days, Jesus went out to a mountainside to pray and spent the night praying to God. It's interesting how Jesus, so many times, often he would withdraw from the crowds, from all the people, from all the noise, from some of those distractions, and he would go and he would be alone. And he would pray to the Father, spend time with his Father. He needed time to get away from all that noise. He needed time to rest. And if he needed it, how much more do we need it? Man, if he needed to rest and get away from the craziness, how much more do you and I need to do the same thing? But again, we have to choose it, or it just doesn't happen. I don't know about you, but if I don't choose and be deliberate about getting away and unplugging, I don't do it. I don't do it. Second thing is this: be still. So we unplug. Let's get rid of the distractions. Let's get rid of those electronics, those things that keep us busy and distracted for a while. And in the meantime, let's be still. Psalm 46, 7 through 11. I love this. The Lord Almighty is with us. The God of Jacob is our fortress. Come and see what the Lord has done, the desolations he has brought on the earth. He makes wars cease to the ends of the earth. He breaks the bow and shatters the spear. He burns the shields with fire. Verse 10. He says, be still and know that I am God. I will be exalted among the nations. I will be exalted in the earth. The Lord Almighty is with us. The God of Jacob is our fortress. You go to Psalm 131, verses 1 through 2. Listen to what the writer says here. My heart is not proud, Lord. My eyes are not haughty. I do not concern myself with great matters or things too wonderful for me. Verse 2. But I have calmed and quieted myself. I am like a weaned child with its mother. Like a weaned child, I am what? Content. I have calmed and quieted myself, and now I'm content. Here's what I read that and I thought, do we even know how to quiet ourselves? Like, really? Be still. Do we know how to do that? One thing I thought about doing at this point was giving 5 minutes for all of us, just 5 minutes of complete stillness and quiet. But I don't think we could do it. I don't think we could do it. Do we know how to quiet ourselves and calm ourselves? And we've got to unplug. And then we've got to be still, which means we have to slow down. And some of us are so fast, moving from one thing to the next, we don't even slow down. And so really, maybe for some of us, it's more than slow down. Some of us just need to plain old stop. We just need to stop. And again, I get it. This is hard, especially for people in a culture who pride themselves in their busyness. It just feeds something in us, right? It makes us feel important. We get a charge from it. You know, we get our confidence from it. It's not where our confidence comes from. That's why we keep doing it. More and more and more and more and more and more and more. It's never enough. We need to stop. Slowing down is tough, but stopping? Whew, that's harder. There's a story about a driver that refused to stop at a stop sign, and he was pulled over by a cop, and the cop told him that the reason he pulled him over was because he refused to stop at a stop sign. This driver replied, look, I slowed down. The cop then explained to him that the sign reads what? Stop, okay? And not slow down. So he wrote him a ticket. The second day, the same driver refused to stop at the same sign. The same cop pulled him over, and the same accusation and the same defense. He was given another ticket. The third day, the same driver refused to stop at the same stop sign. He was pulled over by the same cop and was accused of not stopping at the same stop sign again. He told the cop, "I slowed down." The cop then took a big stick and started hitting him with it on his head really fast. Then he asked the driver, he said, "Since you are finding it difficult to understand the difference between stop and slow down, here I am hitting you on the head with this stick very fast. Now, do you want me to slow down or do you want me to stop?" That's hard to talk and do that at the same time. Do you want me to slow down or do you want me to stop? Trying to make a point. Some of us got to stop. Not just slow down. And there are a lot of us who just need to stop. And we need to take the Sabbath seriously. We need to take rest seriously. It's a gift. The problem is, for some of us, the way we're wired and what's been driven into us is we think we're not going to get anything accomplished if we rest. Again, we're not talking about being lazy. We're finding rest in Christ. So we think, I'm not going to get anything done if I'm resting. What do you mean I have to rest? A whole day? I'm not going to get accomplished what I need to get accomplished. But the problem is what's happening is it's not only harming ourselves, it's harming those around us. We just read a little bit about that. It's our families are hurting, our marriages are suffering, our kids are getting stressed out, and we're passing this hurriedness, this badge of honor, which is a lie, and this busyness onto them. We're talking about this earlier this week, and someone said this. I hadn't heard this before. Maybe you have. 6 days with God, or you can get more done in 6 days with God than 7 without. Think about that. I hadn't heard that till this week. Makes sense, right? You can get more done in 6 days with God than 7 without Him. But for some of us, that blows our minds. I got stuff to do. I got to get it done. I'm busy. I got to work. I got to go here. I got to go to the tournament. I got to go do this. I got to do this. And we're everywhere. And so we pass this on, and it's not a point of pride. It's not a place where it should be a point of pride or a badge of honor. What hurriedness is and busyness like this, it's sickness. It's sickness. I read a book. It's an older book, several years ago. And it's by a guy named John Ortberg, a familiar author. He wrote a book called Life You've Always Wanted, and it's really good. And I thought about this. Listen to what he says about a guy named Lewis Grant, about hurriedness. He says, Lewis Grant suggests we are afflicted with what he calls sunset fatigue. When we come home at the end of the day's work, those who need our love the most, those to whom we are most committed, end up getting the leftovers. Anybody identify with that? I do. Sunset fatigue is when we're just too tired or too drained or too preoccupied to love the people to whom we have made the deepest promises. Sunset fatigue is set in, Grant says, when these things start happening. When you find yourself rushing even when there's no reason to. When there's an underlying tension that causes sharp words or sibling quarrels. It sets in when you set up mock races. Parents, you're gonna get this like this. Okay, kids, let's see who can take the bath the fastest. And those are really about your own need to get through it, right? Been there. Sunset fatigue sets in when you sense a loss of gratitude and wonder. When you indulge in self-destructive escapes from fatigue, abusing alcohol, watching too much TV. And I'm not kidding when he says listening to country music. I'm not even kidding. That's what he says. Don't country fans, I didn't say it. Okay? He was joking too. So it is because it kills love. It kills love that hurry is the greatest enemy of spiritual life. Hurry lies behind much of the anger and frustration of modern life. Hurry prevents us from receiving love from the Father or giving it to His children. That's why Jesus never hurried. If we are to follow Jesus, we must ruthlessly eliminate hurry from our lives. Because by definition, we can't move faster than the one we are following. Think about that. He says we can do this. We can become unhurried people. But an unhurried people and not being busy is so countercultural to what we're living in when we leave this place, even in this place. It is so countercultural from the world around us that it's the opposite of how we even live. Because guys, we're caught up in this as well, are we not? We're just as busy and just as hurried and have just as much stuff to do as people who don't know Christ. We really don't look a lot different. And it's even affected our Sunday morning worship. And I probably will get in trouble for saying this for some of you, but guys, everything else, it becomes more important. We sit in the deer stands, we're on the golf course, we're at tournaments, we're at all our kids' stuff on Sunday mornings. We can't even rest together anymore, some of us, because we're out there doing everything else. And there's something wrong, church. There's something wrong with that. And then we feel frustrated and we get angry at God when he feels far away, or my life isn't going the way I want it, or I just don't have a connection to Jesus anymore. You think he's gone anywhere? Has he left you? Is he too busy to listen to you? To walk with you? Absolutely not. Guess who the busy one is? I'm speaking to myself. Something's wrong with that. We have to learn to be still. We have to learn to eliminate hurry, busyness, and we need to do this. We need to do this because the church is suffering from hurriedness and busyness. It's a gift. We got to choose it. I'm going to walk away from such an incredible gift because I got to go to the tournament, because I got to go sit in the deer stand, because I got to go whatever. I'm going to walk away from this. We do it all the time. Third thing is this. We need to unplug. We need to be still. And in that stillness, we need to meet with Jesus. And again, we have to be deliberate. We have to be intentional. There's a perfect example of this in the Gospel of Luke. And we've read this before. We've been here before. But it's such a great scene in history that we're going to go there again. And I'm guessing we're going to go there again. And I'm guessing we're going to go there again in the future. This is so good. Luke chapter 10, verses 38 through 42. Jesus is at the home of Mary and Martha. Listen to this scene. As Jesus and his disciples were on their way, he came to a village where a woman named Martha opened her home to him. She had a sister called Mary who sat at the Lord's feet listening to what he said. But Martha was distracted by all the preparations that had to be made. She came to him and asked, "Lord, don't you care that my sister has let me do the work by myself? Tell her to help me." Now, I love verse 41 and Jesus' response because he says her name twice. I'm guessing because the first time didn't catch your attention. So if you can put yourself in the room, you got a group sitting here and Mary's listening, Jesus is teaching. I mean, Jesus is in my house, man. I'm going to listen. Martha's in the kitchen. She's getting everything ready, pots and pans, clanging, clanking, boom, 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 And Jesus, she's mad because her sister's not helping her. And Jesus hears her and he says, "Martha." She's still doing her thing. "Martha," right? I may have to raise his voice a little bit, get her attention. And he says this, "You are worried and upset about many things." But listen to what he says in 42. But only what? One thing is needed. Mary has chosen what is better, and it will not be taken away from her. What an incredible scene. And I don't know about you, but I can relate to that so much. This is such an awesome book. It's more than a book. And we see a picture into the heart of humanity here and Jesus' interaction with people just like you and people just like me. So cool. And so looking at this scene, you see Mary, you see Martha. Which one are you? Which one are you this morning? When it comes to hang out with Jesus, are you there? And you're present with him. You want to listen, you're at his feet, you're still, you're unplugged. and I'm going to listen? Or are you Martha, distracted by everything else that has to be done? And did you notice Jesus said there's only one thing that is needed? Look, the sheep gravy can wait. I don't know whatever. That sounds really gross. I just came out, whatever. You get my point. That stuff can wait. That can wait. Only one thing is needed. And Mary chose what is better. And look, it's not going to be taken away from her. It's not going to be taken away from her. So which one are you? Are you Mary? Or are you Martha? Or are you too busy? You're crazy doing other things and you're worried about all this other stuff you got to get to, got to get done. I'm busy. I got to get here, got to do that. When it comes to meeting with Jesus, you're present, you're there, because everyone there was present with Jesus but Martha. She was in the room, she was there. She was not with Jesus. And I'm willing to bet, if I was a betting man, that there are some of us in this room who are here, but you're not present. You're not present with Him. You're here because church is something you mark off your to-do list. Are we busy? Are we Martha or are we Mary? And again, I love what Jesus says to her, only that one thing is needed. And that's meeting with Him. That's meeting with Him. The intention here is to be present with Jesus, intentionally meet with Him. We've got to unplug, we've got to be still, we've got to calm ourselves, and we got to focus our whole heart on Him. Have you ever been talking to someone who's distracted? You're trying to tell them something or explain something to you, but their minds are other places and they're distracted. Has anyone ever done that? How's that feel? Ooh, that's not fun, is it? You want to grab them and, hey, listen. Yeah, it's frustrating when you're trying to talk and you're just distracted, or someone's talking to you. Sometimes this happens. Anyone been here? You're the distracted one. You know, your spouse or your friend or your kids are, hey, Dad, and your mind is everywhere else and you're kind of listening, sort of. Charles Swindoll tells a story about something like this that happened to him. Listen to what he says. He says this: I had been intense through the evening meal. In fact, I had been intense since arriving home. My packed out schedule had me on a rocket-powered roller skates all day long. And my momentum kept my hurry-up mode well into the evening. So I was talking fast, and I was spitting out one-word answers. And I was barking commands, and I was doing this and doing that. In the midst of my hurried exchanges with Cynthia, our daughter Colleen caught up with me, wanting to tell me something about her day. Picking up on my urgency, this is what she said: Daddy, I want to tell you something about school, and I'll talk real fast. I'll tell you really quick. It won't take much time, I promise. I'll talk real fast. So he says this. I took a deep breath, and I said, now wait a minute. Hold on, honey. Talk slowly. She looked at me with her little girl intensity, and she said this: well, Daddy, then listen slowly. Yeah, she's got a point. We need to slow down. We need to stop. We need to unplug. We need to be still. We need to meet with Jesus. And part of that is listening. And again, we have to work, and that's a good thing. But we are called to rest as well, to be still, to listen. No distractions, no hurriedness. When's the last time you've done that? When's the last time you were able to get away and unplug and be still before the Lord? When's the last time? Yeah. It's vital to who we are. We need it. We need it. I think we've said this before. This was told to me at a CIY move a long time ago in youth ministry, but it was a great reminder to me. He said this, and I don't even remember the guy's name, but it stuck with me. He said, who you are is more important than what you do. I think we've said that up here before. What a great reminder. Who you are is more important than what you do. But what do? We try to make what we do make us important. We've got it backwards. But who you are is more important than what you do. So I want to close with some questions, okay? And then we'll be done. First one is this. What is mastering me? What is mastering me? Go back to that beginning. Are you the master of your schedule, or is the schedule the master of you? Is it your phone? Is it social media? Or is it Jesus? Who's mastering who with these things, with your schedule and your phone and these things that we get busy and distracted with? Really, who's in control? What's mastering me? Another way we can say it is what's keeping me from rest. Real rest, not a nap. Rest in Jesus. What's keeping me from finding rest? Do I take the Sabbath seriously? And you know what? We don't talk about the Sabbath much. We really don't. We should more. Because it's a gift. Do I take it seriously? Do I take a day off? Or do I take a half a day, fudge a little bit? We're all guilty of that. You know, sometimes I'll go in on my day off just for an hour or two. Do we take it seriously? Here's the thing. Being hurried and busy and not resting in Jesus, we miss out. We're missing out. We're missing out first with intimacy with Jesus. We have no time for Him. How are we going to be close with anyone if we have no time? It works with our earthly relationships. I have friends I haven't seen for years because we're never together. We're not as close. Makes sense, right? If we make no time for Him and we're busy doing everything else under the sun, we're going to miss out on intimacy with our Savior. And we miss out on connection. Not just with Jesus, but with one another. Right? Again, Sunday mornings, guys, should not just be something on our checklist, and we've turned it into this churchy baloney, and I don't even know how we get out of it. But this is meant for us to rest together, to worship together, to encourage one another, to pray for one another, to build into one another, and to get into God's Word together. This should be about rest, not a notch to mark off or an option that we choose whether or not we have something else better or more important to do. We miss out on connecting with one another as well when we're too busy. We miss out on peace. That peace inside that He gives when we rest in Him. We miss out on contentment. We're not content. Why do you think we're so busy? That speaks to being content. And we miss out on what real rest is. I love this. St. Augustine says this: because God has made us for Himself, our hearts are restless until they rest in Him. That's good. Because God made us for Himself, our hearts are restless until they rest in Him. Are you restless this morning? Maybe the question is, where's your heart? Am I weary? Am I burdened? Sam said something last week that stuck with me at the end of his message. He said, now that you've heard this message, you have no excuse. That was a stinger a little bit, wasn't it? Now that you've heard this message and you've listened, you have no excuse. If you're tired, if you're weary, if you're burdened, if you're without Jesus, you've heard the message of the gospel. He has come, He has died for you. He has made a way for you to experience life, and life abundantly, a life to the full. Rest in Him, peace in Him, life in Him. You have no excuse. So if you're tired and weary, where do you go? You go to Him. So if we walk out of this room and tomorrow you're stressed out and you're back onto your schedule, you may be back onto your schedule. We all will be after we dismiss. And we have this, and do. And by Tuesday, we're already pulling our hair out, which some of us are more stressed than others, evidently. Then you have no excuse. None. So, a couple practical things, and we'll be done. Here's one. I dare you to do this, okay? Schedule a time each day, maybe at the same time every day, and just be still. Are you ready for this? Just for 5 minutes. 5 minutes. I know a guy who does this because he's not a sit-still guy. Anybody else not a sit-still person? Really hard for you? I know you are. Really hard for you to sit still? Yeah. Listen, 5 minutes. Just be still. Put your phone Put your phone in the other room. Okay, put your phone in the next county, whatever it takes to unplug, and be still. 5 minutes. And meet with Jesus. God, what do you want me to know today? Remind me who I am in you. Thank him. 5 minutes. Schedule that. Start there. 5 minutes isn't that long, but it's a place to start. Take a Sabbath. Take a day to rest. Put it on the calendar. You gotta be intentional. If we don't plan it and put it on the calendar, what's gonna happen? It doesn't happen. It doesn't get done. So pick a day and rest. And then have your friends hold you accountable. Have those around you hold you accountable and call you up the night before and say, listen, I know tomorrow's your day off. Take a day off. Don't go into the office tomorrow. Okay, find some rest. Meet with him. And put people around you who can help you with that. We all need that. We all need that. If you got employees here and you go to church here together, if you got employees and you're in charge and you've got people in church, they go to other churches and they work for you and they're coming in on their day off, so you don't allow that. Don't come in. Tomorrow's your day off. Rest. We can do more with God in 6 than 7 without. Rest. Make a plan and have those people around you help. Put them around you. That'll help you with it. I'm gonna close again. I just want to read Matthew 11:28-30 one more time. I just want to leave you with his words. And so I don't know where your hearts are this morning. I don't know if you've come here tired and worn out and exhausted. If not, I'm sure you'll get to that point again sometime. We all kind of go through those things. If you're weary, if you're burdened with something outside circumstances that is just sat on you, right? You felt that before. It's just for some reason landed on me. If that's where you're at, if you're outside of Christ and you don't know him, let's read his invitation again, and then let's stand and read it. Let's go ahead and stand. I'm going to read this and then we'll pray and we'll be deployed. It says this. Jesus says this. One more time. We're going to read it. He says, "Come to me, all you who are weary and burdened, and I will give you rest. Take my yoke upon you and learn from me. For I am gentle and I'm humble in heart, and you will find rest for your souls. For my yoke is easy and my burden is light." That's our invitation this morning, and that's what we want to leave you with. I'm going to pray, and we'll be done. Father, we thank you again for this morning. And Jesus, thank you. Thank you for offering yourself the way you do. As a place of rest, as a place where we find salvation. We find it in you and nothing else. Just in you. And God, what you've done for us is incredible. What you're doing in the lives of people that follow you is incredible. And I pray, Lord, that in this moment, in this time, with this issue that we struggle with, this idea of not being busy, God, forgive us because we've become too proud about how busy we are, and we have pushed you so far aside in so many ways. So would you give us whatever it takes in us? God, we need your Spirit to move in us, to convict us of unplugging from our devices. So Lord, this afternoon, if you want to strike all those towers, bring them down. Whatever it takes for us to get off of those things for a while so we can hear you and meet with you. That we would calm ourselves and be still. That we would listen to you. Help us encourage one another in this. Find those people around us who can support us in this, who would love on us, walk through it with us. But God, we praise you for walking through it with us more than anybody else. You never let us down. You're always there. You're with us even in the busyness. But God, may we stop and just be present with you like Mary did. I just pray this, God, that you would get the glory, that we would begin to change more and more and more. And people would want to know why we're so filled with peace, why we're not stressed out, why we look so different. It's because of you. You just pray these things, God, in your name. Jesus, in your name. Amen.